What's up, guys? Hmm. Happy Sunday. How's everyone doing? Ooh, what? Ready for market open to cash in on this war? Wait, it's almost Monday. We haven't tacoed yet? Having an okay weekend. PLAB? PLAB? Give me a sec. Type these out too. It's annoying. What else? I'm doing good. How are you, man? Happy it's Sunday. Yeah, market open tomorrow. Let's fucking go. Hey, Jen. Oh, whoops. I didn't get a haircut. Deleted myself by accident. The market have any news? Yeah, a bit. I knew the dollar was moving up in Asian trading hours. When did the world wars get their names? Surely it wasn't on day one. No. I'm just gonna make NOV push up higher, probably. I don't want a pompadour, Squamsk. But thank you. Let's see what we got going on here. So it looks like currently there's a council representing the president, so the head of the judiciary, and a jurist from the Guardian Council are going to assume leadership roles following the Ayatollah's death. So far, 3 ships have been attacked near the mouth of the Persian Gulf. And traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is halted, which is bad. Currently, the foreign minister Abbas Arashi says the country has no intention to close the strait and has kept it open so far. Travel disruptions with all airlines suspending operations. Emirates canceled suspended flights indefinitely. Etihad Airways and Qatar Airways. UAE is closing the Abu Dhabi and Dubai markets for the first 2 days of the week for oil. US dollar and currencies start to trade in Australia. Looks like Bitcoin's being used as a bit of a safe haven, like we saw with the Venezuela strikes. So people probably try to dodge the currency crash in Iran. Apparently, the new leadership was willing to sit down and talk with Trump. About it. It's like congressionally things are just falling along with party lines. What game are you streaming? What? Oh, Gamma Strike. Is it Rocket, Riley, USAR, and LRN? Two of them. Tesla app. Rocket, Riley. Cole. Halzom. Yeah, those are the problem with these like Iranian war exposed stocks is that um the positioning on them Friday is going to be irrelevant. Ulta, Lonza. Oh, some insiders bought in. Maybe it's almost time. Do silver. Again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. Do like 2 more. BTU? Why? Alright. I mean, I'll do it, but I don't know why. I'm already doing like cat howl and zon. I don't want to do DBN also. Feels like a waste. I'm not doing fucking GME. GME looks boring as fuck. I could already tell you. Ooh, oracles are. Alright, that's enough. I gotta record Vol Stars at like 4 o'clock, so I have a lot of time to fuck around. Yeah, let's run through this shit. So first, let's do PLAB. Oh, don't have that on here. Fantastic. Oh, I don't know what to do with that. Wish you guys would ask for stocks that we actually have options data. Alright, well, we can go over the technicals, I guess. It looks like it's double topping. Volume's been dead since it gapped up. So, probably find some sellers around here. Historically, this is a high price. But, quite a lot of room to pull back. There's a gap to the downside at like 34. Support at 32. 31, and then big downside gap towards 25. Seems like this like a good sector. Earnings were pretty solid. Last quarter earnings beat too. Yeah, maybe this holds the pre-earnings price, and the sell-off finds support here. Continues to rise. I don't know if I would play this. It doesn't seem like it's in a good range to target anything. But I guess if support came in here above like 36, that could be potentially a good entry to go long. Failure 36, kind of bearish, down a few bucks, but it seems like it's held this range since the prior earnings. Obviously, this earnings is a lot less enthusiastic, and it looks like everybody got vol crushed, mostly got an exit opportunity, so probably continued consolidation. Doesn't look like quarter over quarter there's a whole ton of fucking price improvement, so probably not substantial amounts of confidence in the future of the company, but the confidence is growing. It does look like they're doing pretty well on quarter one though. Revenues are up. I don't know if you're thinking this long term or short, but yeah, that's all right. You changed my name. YouTube did. YouTube changed everybody's name. Dump. Oh, we could do Nvidia also. Yeah, so that's all I got for PLAB. I mean, financials look good. I wouldn't probably try to power buying it, buy it at a discount, but I don't see a play here. It's worthwhile. Too close to the pre-earning support. If anything, I'd want to like target maybe the downside gap, but that not really worth it. Unless Ivy's priced down a ton. All right, so let's start with Tesla. Right. Tesla looks a little weak going into the end of last week. It's like the rest of the gamma fell off from like the 25th, and so from like the Wednesday expiration into end of week, gamma flattened out, but didn't move negative yet. Probably some decent support around here at 400. Still, yeah, there is. However, if 400 breaks to the downside, this can move down pretty hard. 370, 360. Seem pretty doable right away. Yeah, gamma falls off pretty hard down to like 65. And then it starts to thin out a bit. Skew steepened a bit Friday after 3 days of recovery. And then Thursday, Friday steepened on the 30 and the 10. Ivy picked up a little bit. Spreads are pretty wide. So it's not like ball selling that's discouraged here. Looks like they are selling the upside of spot into next week. And ball picks up to the downside, so maybe look for gamma neutral to be the flip point there for bearish price action, and then that opens range down towards like 65. To the upside, it doesn't look great. I mean, I guess if it holds 400, could push back out to like 10 or 20. But I don't like the delta to the upside. It's pretty thin. So I'd guess if indexes reverse tomorrow, Friday's close and push back up, then things could get bullish here, but 400 seems like a pretty well defined confirmation for either price direction. So Tesla holds 400 into open, probably pushes to the upside, opens under like 397, and then that opens the bigger downside move up. It's pretty simple. Beyond, it's me, Danwich. I'll try to get it added onto the end. We'll see if I have time. No, I'm not doing any. I'm not taking any more. Apple. Ooh, Apple got kind of slammed into the end of last week. Like a close enough to Gamma Max. Delta Gamma both falling off. Let's see what support looks like. Not much. Not much support here. Already slipped the 60 or two. Is that 67.50? Level. Apple looks like it's got room back down to 250. Probably plenty of delta there. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure margin requirements are going to be up. I don't know what the effects of the war are going to be. Too many moving pieces to say definitively. I mean, I'll cover what I expect for, tomorrow, next couple days and Pickles picks, but expect volatility. Lots of volatility. I mean, the market's definitely going to be super reactive to any news. Um, yeah, looks like 250, 240 support here on the Delta. See what that looks like into March OPEX. Yeah, about the same. Skew steepened pretty sharply on the 10-day on Friday. A bit of a negative spread on VRP. So the options already sold off pretty heavily, but historic vols elevated on the 10-day. A lot of variance with puts priced up. That also looks slightly bearish. Gamma falls off pretty quickly to the downside. Starts to slow down around like 250 ish. So I think that downside, I think that downside 250 target's actually not too bad. Technical support's like 254. We're looking for like a new low. Be like 252. But a little bearish. There's some long gamma benefit there, so maybe you get put buyers on it. So much of this stuff is going to be just dependent on how the market reacts to the war tomorrow. I would say things that are definitely going to happen is probably like oil goes up, right? Because that's going to be the most uncertain pricing. Market. Price action looks a little bit bullish. I don't like the positioning very much. Gamma neutral still pretty far from spot. There's a little bit of support here around 18. But then failure of that falls back to 16. Breakout to the upside, 20 is resistance. It's like big resistance. Probably kind of hard to get down to 15 too. I would say price action looks like it's kind of trapped between 17 and 20. See if people are getting more bearish. Oh great, we don't have a vol page for this. Fantastic. Oh, gamma's positive across the curve. That's why gamma neutral's fucking weird. Yeah, it looks like you could pull down to like 1650, and then the drop off in gamma slows. There's no negative gamma on the chain anywhere. so people are probably still just mostly bullish, but total gamma exposure fell a bit on Friday. Yeah, I would say this probably can continue to sell off. There's just not a lot of range on it. A few bucks. Probably not worth playing. Weird choice. All the oil stocks are going to be the same. I don't need to answer questions about ZOM and Oxy separately. Riley. Looks like it's continuing to fail. Gamma neutral's pushing up above DN. Gamma fell off. Delta's falling off. So this probably keeps selling off. Maybe back towards like $5. Although not a lot of fucking support there. There's a bit of delta there. I think it's mostly further dated, like April. The puts are even further than that, so it's like upside interest is around 750. People aren't getting more bullish in the short term. Puts are staying elevated. 30-day put pricing isn't very steep though. And is. People have sold off most of the volatility here. HV is falling, so the HV/IV10 spread is pretty wide. That can encourage more call sellers to come in above spot. Does look like they're already selling the 750 pretty hard, so probably like 7 and 650 will be the next ones, and that further encourages the move down to $5. I guess the biggest problem with that move down is not a lot of gamma is lost to the downside. A little bit, but it's fairly flat between like 6 and 5. So I guess 650 was lost at close on Friday. Yeah, this could pull back to $5. Looks like people were selling the 650 calls. They might be selling the $6 and the $5 calls as well. Nope. Probably buying puts. Probably buying the 650 and the $6 and the $5 put, and then the calls. Yeah, almost all out of the money. Looks like the 750 is getting the shit sold out of it. So not super bullish on Riley there. Wasn't it hatching a plan? I think VIX will be coming down in price anytime soon. Just went to a war with a potential nuclear power. So I don't. I'm not entirely sure that's a thing. Confirmed talks between the new Iranian regime and the US will probably bring volatility down a bit. If those talks are successful, volatility will come down more, but I would say at open, we've probably got some repricing to do tomorrow before anything else happens. Oh god. This still just looks boring as fuck, and like the chain's continuing to bleed. Nothing interesting here. Cat. Interesting. A little bit of supported cat at 740. A little upside resistance at 745. Not a lot of either one of those. bigger downside support at 730 and 700. As far as delta goes, there's not much below spot. If this loses 740, it's probably going straight to 720. And then if it loses 720, it looks like the next stop to the downside 680. So quite a lot of room to fall. I mentioned last week that it was starting to look a little bit bearish. Now that it's below gamma neutral, that's probably even more accurate. As long as it stays below gamma neutral. So watch that 750 level at GN. Obviously, that'll be a breakpoint. If you're going to short cat, be really careful because, or at least, take profits quickly because the reversals on Caterpillar can be kind of nuts. It's generally better if you want to short cat to short Dow. Tends to be a bit more beneficial. You guys remember when Caterpillar was 6 times cheaper than it is now? I do. I do want to take a look at IV on this. Yeah, SKU's steepening quite a bit, so probably will lose 740 across the whole front bucket. There's a little bit of backwardation in the IV. HV10's nosediving, so call selling on the 10 days kind of insane. Probably seeing that a bit above spot. Yeah, seeing quite a lot of call selling out here. IV rises pretty decently to the downside. Kind of went all the way out to like 680-ish, and then get bigger spikes if 680's failed, but it's not likely. Volatility for tomorrow is priced up quite a lot. If it moves down, vol will pick up even more. Yeah, so a bit bearishly skewed. I will say gamma doesn't fall off super fast, but there isn't a lot of delta either, so it might not matter. And the money puts coming in as of Friday. The next 2 weeks. Probably selling the 740 call. Looks like they're selling calls the upside of spot. Not a lot of in the money call buying either. Looks like calls at 740 and 730 collapsed. Profit taken on a big chunk of the 760s. Yeah, this is a little bit bearish. Just watch keep it keep an eye on GN. How? I mean, I don't think increased turmoil in the Middle East is going to be bad for Hal or Zom, but Haliburton doesn't benefit immediately from anything. However, if peace deals are inked and any of those deals expand U.S. reach into Iranian oil, then expect Hal to do very well off of that. But I think in the short term, I mean, most of the benefit it's been getting has been from Venezuela. It'll probably continue. I mean, things aren't really looking very bearish here, and options are getting slightly more bought. So if anything, it's maybe going to push back out to the upside. Looks like pretty strong support at 35, room out to 40. A little bit of resistance at 37. That's roughly where Gamma Max is. Skew and Skew 10 are the short dated skew kind of steepened a bit, but 30-day picked up, so those aren't too bad. This big fucking spread, and what's that doing? calls are still worth selling as historic vol continues to drop. And if you look, like IV's fucking flat everywhere around spot. So not a lot of change in volatility or pricing if the stock goes, up to 40 or down to 34. And that just gets worse the further out you go. The people are just selling all the options on the chain because the return premiums are really high. It's getting short strangled. Which, I mean, I guess you can kind of see here. There's a slight upward drift to it, but not much. And since the high back here on the 5th, it's only gone up like a few bucks, like $4, $3. So not a lot of range on that one. Zom might be different. Yeah, Zom's looking pretty bullish. Delta was already increasing in Gamma into the end of last week. Gamma Max moving up with spot. Looks like there's a room out to like 160, maybe even 170 to the upside. And there's Delta out there too. So this looks pretty bullish. Skew on the 30 days almost positive. Skew on the 10 days almost positive. This is really thin. Yeah, really thin spreads on IV10 and HV10 and IV30 and HV30. So, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to sell calls here, and it looks like calls are pricing up. So that's also pretty bullish. There's just not a ton of room. 60, maybe 62.50. Which is about like $8 to $10. So it's not a bad play. And then, like, obviously, depending on how hard oil runs, that chain could reposition really, really fast. So you may get even more upside buying at like the 170, 180 strikes. Ulta. Gamma curve's pretty fucking flat on this. It's getting ready to fail. Fail GN. Failure GN opens up. Move down. Maybe like 670. 670, 650 are the downside targets. There's upside resistance at 90, 95. 10-day skews getting a bit more bearish, but calls are still fairly well. Calls are getting bid up on the 30. Have been since like last week. But the upside's choppy. Downside's a lot smoother. What does the delta look? Yeah, under 680 seems like a pretty important inflection point. That opens the 660 move, so about $20 a downside there if 80's failed. That seems pretty easy to track. And then, yeah, there's a little bit of a bearish edge. Not a ton, but it gets a lot worse under 680. Looks like it closed at the low of the day on Friday too, which isn't exactly great after getting rejected hard off of the reversal. So yeah, I would say even technically, like a pull back to like what's the low over here? Pull back to like 650. 658, 650 or 660. So yeah, about $23 of room to the downside. Not as much room to the upside, but be careful of it bouncing off gamma neutral if positioning starts to shift more bullish tomorrow. But if it fails that, yeah, there's plenty of downside open. silver. SLV looks kind of bullish. I mean, it's at Gamma Max, so Friday's move up in silver might be kind of over. I could actually look at the probably better to look at the carry leverage. Yeah, the fucking surplus on silver on the carry went up to like 7.78 on Friday. Silver actually looks like it has a little bit more room to run. Carry margin just started turning a little bit negative, and like overall leverage on the trade has been fairly flat. It did make a new low Friday, which makes me want to say that silver could keep running, but Gamma Max on SLV is kind of stuck here. Total increase in gamma exposure is kind of flattening out, but delta's still picking up. Seems like 85 is not like a very good pinpoint, so 90 or 80 seem like more likely targets for price action in the short term. There's a little bit less delta to the upside than there is the ability to squeeze the downside, so slight bearish bias on delta there. Gamma, it's kind of the same deal. It's fairly flat around spot though, right? So things aren't really bearish unless you lose 80. And they're slightly bullish above 85, but not a lot. Since that doesn't really indicate any kind of directionality, I would say that forward yield on vol is probably going to move positive. Dollar moves up, that's going to increase carry leverage. But if the surplus on silver stays flat as leverage increases, then we should see, I guess we would see silver continue to push up. Some of that'll be affected by how much the dollar surges on flight to safety. Right? People are freaking out about war, or they're worried about it. You're going to see people going to bonds. If they're doing that, it's going to add some like tailwinds to the dollar. But I mean, from the options chain here, there's really not a whole ton of room. REGN. Ooh, that looks kind of topped out. Not much more room to the upside on that. But it's been stable in this range. This could be a good call selling opportunity. Doesn't look like it spends a lot of time above Gamma Max. I don't know if the calls are worth selling, but we can find out in a minute. Pull back to 750 seems pretty easy. There's very little gamma or delta at spot. Resistance at 800 to the upside, so that could be a good target for call selling, especially if it goes like at the money or in the money. 30-day skews continuing to rise, but 10 days kind of falling off. Looks like there's some sold. Yeah, it looks like people are selling the 800, selling the 820, selling a whole lot more of the 840 the further out you get, and then the OPEX expiry. Most of the upside looks sold with the exception of a little bump in IV at 800. So yeah, I don't think it's very bullish above 800. Likely to pull back. Probably a great place to just sell calls or call spreads. If you get enough time to expiry, probably see a lower price at some point in the near future. would be beneficial to metals. I mean, not silver and gold though. I mean, I can see it being beneficial to like steel, copper, but that also depends. Like boots on the ground. Are we building equipment? Those are all factors. Is China gonna ramp up like its military industrial complex in an effort to provide arms to Iran and have Iran act as like OPEC's little or BRICS little Ukraine, right? And then just start feeding them defense systems. If that happens, then yeah, copper and steel could move, but I don't see silver and gold reacting that strongly to anything but the shift in dollar. And since the shift in dollar is likely to be up, that'll reduce reliance on precious metals as a hedge. So I think the more this escalates, the at least in the short term, the worse it is for precious metals. To you, big beautiful coal. Ooh, BTU's got some room to move up. Uh, Chain's been bleeding quite a bit. Looks like there might be some put selling below spot. There's room for this to move back out to the upside to like 35, 37. And there's some delta to squeeze out there too. Local support's at 30. Failure at 30 is when things start to get more bearish. It's not quite there yet, but we get a little bounce from lows on Friday, and I'm sure energy will do well tomorrow, one way or the other. Especially if what we really need to watch this week is going to be what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz. If the regime mines it, oil's going to skyrocket. If they start fucking with shipping, inflation's going to skyrocket. So it's definitely it definitely needs to be monitored really closely. But I feel like the market's just going to be reactive minute by minute to whatever happens, which will keep volatility and variance pretty high. Or close over close variance should be pretty high. It'll be a fun week for traders. Should be. Unless Trump gets negotiations started pretty early. Oracle. Oracle accumulating a little. Looks like GM starting to move out back above Vega neutral. Delta on the chain stayed pretty flat, but no indication that Gamma is getting any more bullish really, besides Gamma Max moving up. It looks like fuck tons of sold puts to the downside of spot. Those could get squeezed or start to squeeze on a loss of 145. But if they don't, 145 acts as support. This has room to move back up to like 160 or 170. Skew 10's getting a lot more bullish, so people are making bullish bets in the short term, or at least selling a lot of puts, because puts are getting pretty drastically cheaper over the last few days. So we're probably seeing some of that volatility pushed down under spot. If that keeps doing that, and this can hold 140 or get out above 150, things get a lot more bullish. There is a big spread though, so call sellers might step in on anything to the upside, especially like another 150 test, and that could flatten the upside curve out more. There's a little room to chop above spot, not a lot of room to fail below spot. But it does look like people are positioning bullishly, especially after the GN rejection. I'd want to see that pick up more. Maybe the right play is to play a breakout of gamma neutral towards VN. if you get one. I'm not really sure the downside's worth playing because there's so many sold puts. Got what? Nvidia? Nvidia should be interesting after selling off hard as fuck last week. I don't think they benefit from what's going on in Iran, but I'm sure someone will think of a reason that they should. Oh. Looks like it almost tapped gamma neutral on Friday. Gamma's almost negative on the chain. Pretty bearish price action over the last 2 days since the earnings call. A little support down at 170 below spot, and then fuck all below that, so you get down to like 160. So downside targets 170, 160 on a failure of GN. Upside, it's like, is that 185 is the next upside resistance of any note. And gamma out, like delta out to that is pretty flat. Maybe some minor support locally at like 176. That might be like the weekly contract though. 2 day. So the OPEX expiration. Calls are also mostly out on the OPEX expiration. Skew steepening a bit, so people are buying some downside protection. HV/IV are narrowing, which encourages call selling. IV30, HV30 also, like HV30 is moving up a little bit more slowly towards HV3, but things are still in contango here. There's some stabilization. Like vol's not going to pick up on the downside move very much. So I'd say probably a little bit of stabilization, but not necessarily bullish or bearish. Then you guys wanted to look at beyond. I'll do EPAM after that, or EPAMs now because I got a few minutes. I mean, it already broke out above Gamma Max. Doesn't look like Gamma Max is reversed yet, but Delta's picking up on the chain quite a bit, and the Delta that picked up into the end of the week stayed on the chain, which could open up like continuation, but the snap down in Gamma Max and the closing price mean that things are going to get a little weird. Super amount to $3, but very, very little upside delta. So no resistances really to the upside. Just supported $1. Which, I mean, price could definitely stay pinned to. Looks like IV and HV are roughly the same. 30-day IV is not rising quite at the same pace that the 10-day is. So the short term's a little bit more bearish. But any move to the downside is going to pick up vol. Yeah, I would say either it's going back to 50 or out to like 250. I don't know what you want to play on that, but I don't like the upside very much, especially with the rejection Friday. It's very likely that tomorrow night Gamma Max will be back above spot, because the options out there aren't really all that expensive. People are probably willing to underpay for a bullish position. You okay? Yeah, I think so. Why? I'm a little tired, but it's fine. What did I say I would do? I said I'd do EPAM. Ooh, EPAM's looking kind of good. That looks bouncy. Closed above DN on Friday. DNGN flattening out and Gamma Max nosediving. It's a nice look. We're out to like 160, 180 to the upside. Like a bunch of delta coming in at 180. Probably aren't puts, but or bot puts or bot puts, but if they're sold, that's bullish. If they're bought and they close them, also kind of bullish. Not a lot of gains in gamma out above 160. Gamma gains in gamma kind of fall off, but if spot moves here, I think the curve will smooth out a bit. So probably some repositioning on an upside move. Looks like bullish calls at 45 and 60. Puts being sold out of the money. Sub 130. Maybe some of these being closed out. Spot puts. These 165s are kind of interesting. There's a spike in calls there, and that kind of fell off. There's really not enough of them on the chain, I don't think, for it to matter, but that looks kind of good. Check out vol. If people are buying vols. Looks like they are. Skew starting to turn more positive, and the 10-day skew reversed hard, so that short-term bearishness fell off really fast. Probably when all those puts sold. Yeah, some decent upside targets. This looks actually kind of good. Don't hate that. ASTS. Still a very steep gamma curve on this. It looks a little bearish, but lots of short-term buyers. So you still have probably a lot of retail playing the up and down side on this. If it falls back below the prior low, though, that looks pretty bad. Not a lot of support under 75. Yeah, it looks like 75 or 70 to the downside. Major supports are down at like 50, so puts aren't pricing up. Call selling still pretty heavily encouraged on the 10-day. 30-day maybe, yeah, 30-day not so much. So not a lot of premium to gain from the 30. Might be like a good opportunity to go like short the 10-day vol, long the 30-day contract. And play the calendar there and just play a like a continued push up and skew. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's all the. Is that all the tickers I had? Thank you guys for tuning in. Oh wait, I'll do DVN for what's his face here at the end. Looks like it's still pretty stable above 40. Gamma Max moved up. There's room out to 45. Delta's kind of flat, but might pick up tomorrow. In between 42.50 and 45. There's quite a lot of delta there at both of those strikes, so spot's kind of stuck around like the 43 to 44 range. He's still pretty bullish on the 30-day, but 10-day got bearish for a second. It looks like it's reversing. Yeah, not a lot of gamma to grab out here, but plenty of grab to the downside. I would say if 140s or if 40 is lost, that's when things get bearish. Otherwise, it looks pretty stable. Huge market prediction. Yeah, we could. I mean, I'm gonna do it in Pickles picks. And there's really nothing to say about futures right now. They're not open. But I guess we can take a look at some stuff. I did also did I already did closing bell on Friday, so I'm not really sure what I'm gonna add to that with the Iranian war, but I would imagine volatility will pick up in the morning. At least into futures market open, there's gonna need to be some repricing of shit. It's probably not bullish given that we're probably sitting on fairly thin front end liquidity, but I'm not sure. Like if we get flight to bonds, liquidity on the front end could stay pretty robust through the period, which it is because of the war, through the period, which it's generally kind of bearish. Um, because there's going to be a lot of demand for like short dated, like US 3 and 6 month treasuries. There's probably going to be demand for Bitcoin as people with money try to flee the collapse of the Iranian currency, which is already fairly collapsed, but I mean, they may continue to try to flee that. We saw that with Venezuela. When Venezuela got attacked, you saw a bunch of money flow out into Bitcoin for a brief period, but then that sold back off. Bitcoin increasing is probably good for risk assets to some degree. It depends on how much it continues to run up. But my check there would be just volatility overnight. Look at what VX is doing. I'm sure there's going to be like fairly constant news reports on what's going on in Iran, and unlikely to all be bullish. But if the market thinks that Trump's heading into negotiations with the new leaders, that should keep things fairly calm, unless those negotiations break down or they don't occur or something like that, and then we get, then we'll get another rush of volatility. But I don't think after the morning's like hedging demand is met that there's a lot of reason to continue down until we know more about the situation. Anyway, that's all I got. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Pickles Picks will be out tonight. Try to get started on it earlier if I can. Catch you later, guys. Peace.